Good afternoon, my beloved learners. We are always on the topic social and economic development during the colonial period in Kenya. We already saw these developments, including Ugandan Railway. We talked about the settlers farming in Kenya during the colonial period. We saw the colonial land policy. Remember the Devonshire White Papers that came up as a way of solving a conflict between the Europeans, Asians, and Africans. Then we looked at urbanization, and now want us to look at education and healthy care that was done during the colonial period. Under education, we want to look at the education that was offered by the colonial government during the colonial period. Normally, the first group to bring education in Africa were the missionaries. Already in 1844, in Rabai, there was a school set up by the missionaries, and also in Mombasa, 1807, there was a school already set up by the missionaries. What kind of education did the missionaries offer to the Africans in Kenya? We used to call this one industrial education. It provided a technical skills and agricultural skills for the Africans. It was already said that Africans do not have the capacity to pursue higher education. So the only thing could offer them is the industrial education so they could get jobs in the land, white settlers' lands as farmers, agriculturalists, how to count their cows, their goats, how to build their small houses that were taking place there, how to be a mechanic for the purposes of their vehicles, how to be a good driver, tailor, shopkeepers, and all this. But they were not offered higher education. This brought about conflict. The Africans, after getting missionary education, wanted also the higher education. And we are going to see that later, the government itself, the colonial government itself, started also bringing about education, schools, and the local councils. Today we call them the county council schools. They are there. Harambee schools are for the missionaries. Missionary schools, Harambee schools. Private schools, they call them. But today's government schools that are held by the council, county council, they were started by the local, by the colonial government. Then you're going to see the African schools. We call them independent schools that were founded by the Africans themselves after realizing that what they are taught by the missionaries and what they are taught by the colonial government, these local county schools, local council schools, was not enough to make them get good jobs up there and also to get wonderful knowledge for higher education above primary school. So we will call these ones independent schools that will be spearheaded by the women, African women, and also African men, and they are going to help a lot the Africans in their studies. Now, I want us to start with education as offered by the missionaries. Missionary education, which had also 3 levels: primary, tertiary, and university education. After education, some Africans enjoyed better lifestyle. After this mission education, there are some Africans who enjoyed better lifestyles. More Africans were interested with education. More missionaries were called upon to provide education, so that by 1911, education sector developed rapidly. By 1926, already a number of Africans had completed the primary level of education. Where are they heading to? They would like to go to secondary education, and that was not offered by the colonial government and the missionaries. This is where the conflict will start from. Before we reach there, let's talk about the features of missionary education. Missionary education, number one, was elementary. Look at the word elementary. It was meant to make learners to read, write, and do arithmetic. You are able to read and write and to do some calculations. Not beyond that. Number two, it was religious centered and catechumenism. You are taught about religious life. Who is Jesus? Who is God? So that you can maintain moral life in the reserves. Number three, it was industrial and technical centered. Industrial and technical. You learn such things as technical skills such as carpentry, masonry, tailoring, shoemaking, cloth making. What else? Yes, I can hear from this young man called Lamas. Lamas, don't be annoyed. Don't be annoyed. This is how Africans were treated. Just become a simple, just get less basic skills of life, so that you can be able to work under the white man's land. If you are a bit higher in education, intelligent a bit, you could get a job in the office. You call them town clerks. Then number four, it taught agricultural skills and practices, how to milk the cow and the rest, how to count these cows and goats that are in and outside. The one was given birth, the age of a cow, you could be able to count the age of the goat, the horses. This is what we call it, agricultural skills. Then the last one, number five, it also enhanced hygiene among Africans. They were taught how to keep hygiene, build toilets in the villages, clean the houses, clean the compound outside, so that don't stay in the dirty place. In the next clip, we're going to talk about the objectives of the missionary education. So keep waiting. I'll be back in a minute.